Hey guys, SimmersDim Gaming here, back with another Retrospect video, and this time, as the title suggests, it's on Resident Evil Outbreak. It's actually going to be on Resident Evil Outbreak File 1 and 2, because I technically classed them as one game. This is probably one of my most favourite Resident Evil games of all time, and I'm going to go over why. It's not a perfect game, because what game is perfect? Resident Evil 2. But yeah, we're going to go over the following things. We're going to be going over the gameplay, the controls, the online aspect to the game, the storyline and the characters, and then we'll go over things that I like and dislike about the game. So without further ado, let's get into this.
Resident Evil Outbreak Retrospect.
Just a side note, you're going to see a lot of gameplay from Resident Evil Outbreak 1 and 2. I'm going to try and make it correspond with what I'm talking about, but I have so much Outbreak footage from playing it online and Twitch streaming it that there's just going to be footage in the background. But, side note over. I'll give you my brief introduction to Resident Evil Outbreak. So, it came out on the 17th of September 2004 in the UK, which is where I'm from. And I can remember seeing some screenshots in PlayStation Magazine. Because bear in mind, this was 2004. The internet obviously was still around, but it wasn't the big influence that it is today. So I remember going and looking at PlayStation Magazine, going to school, talking to all my friends. None of them were really into zombie games, but at that point I had already played Resident Evil 2 and 3 to death and loved the series. So when it came out, I got my dad to go and buy me the game because I was too young. And I can remember putting the disc in for the first time. Obviously, I chose Kevin, the cop. There are 8 characters to choose from, and I chose the cop because coming from playing Resident Evil 2, where everyone plays as Leon first, I was like, cool, alright, I'm going to play as the cop, Kevin. So I can remember doing this very level that's in the background, just the first level, the Outbreak scenario, and I was absolutely terrified. The zombies broke through the door, I used all my pistol ammo pretty much instantly. And looking back, that was probably one of the funnest moments I had on the game because it was just pure terror. But I digress. I could talk about the sure feeling of nostalgia for days, just like I could with my Resident Evil 2 retrospect. But we're going to get into the storyline of the game first. So Resident Evil Outbreak is set in between Resident Evil 2 and 3. There's a lot of references to the second and third game, especially the second one in this, and this goes for Outbreak File 1 and File 2. As you can see here, this level Outbreak is pretty much when everyone in the city, the citizens of the city, start to realise that something's going wrong, and that's where the game starts. So the storyline is very much these characters are just survivalists that are stuck in Raccoon City at the height of the T-virus outbreak. So that's pretty much the story. It's kind of a typical Resident Evil story from the Raccoon City era. That being said, it isn't just a copy and paste. It takes some influence, mainly, as I said earlier, from the Resident Evil 2 series. So you've got the below freezing point scenario, which is the lab in Resident Evil 2, and you have the Desperate Times scenario, which is in the RPD, the entire of the RPD, which is awesome and very nostalgic. But for the most part, this game storyline does make it its own thing, where you have locations such as in the Underbelly scenario, you're in the Raccoon City subway, and then you have the Hive, which is in Raccoon City Hospital. Little bit of a throwback to Resident Evil 3 there, but it doesn't feel that nostalgic because you go into loads of different locations. So there are aspects of nostalgia, but like I said earlier, the storyline is very much its own thing, and it makes it its own game, which makes it stand out from some of the other titles and the spin-off titles. You then get to choose, when you start the game you don't have any NPCs unlocked, so you then get to choose from 8 characters, and those 8 characters are Kevin, who is a cop who works at the RPD, you've got Mark, who's a security guard who is a former soldier, Jim that works in the subway, George that is a doctor, David that is a handyman, Alyssa who is a journalist, Yoko, she's technically a student but she has a bit of a shady past, and you have Cindy, who is a waitress. She's actually the waitress at the bar you start off in, and they each have their own unique abilities. For example, Kevin has a kick, and he can also pot shot with his pistol, whereas Alyssa can pick locks with her lockpick, and she has a really good backstep. For a game that came out in 2004, there's a lot of variety because, like I said, the characters have their own unique abilities, so it makes you able to play the game in a variety of different ways. So for example, going back to Alyssa, there's certain paths that you can take because she can unlock doors, and there's certain items that you can find, such as extra knives, ammo, and some key items as well because of her lock-picking ability. Keeping on the subject of characters as well, there is a vast variety of NPC characters that you meet and that you see throughout the individual scenarios that you can actually unlock to play as. Now they are essentially just total reskins of one of the 8 characters, so they keep their abilities. So it's essentially just, you want to play as a cop, you've unlocked that skin. He happens to be a Mark type cop, you can then play as a Mark type cop and use his abilities. So that is a really good touch that you don't see in very many games, so well done Capcom for that. So the reason I've put controls on online in the same section is for this reason. So this is an online game. It was a very early online game on the PlayStation 2. And that being said, you didn't really have headsets or chat servers like you do now. So the game had a range of ad-libs that you could do to communicate with your teammates, which was really cool. If they were through another door, for example, and they needed help, you can hear a muffled help me, because you can spam it on the D-pad, for example, so the team know that you're close and that you need help, so they'll then come through the door and help you. So it has a range of ad-libs and you can use them whenever you want, and you can say a variety of things. Some of them are pretty funny as well. Some of Jim's quotes are probably the funniest. My favourite is, "My life is shit." So basically what I'm trying to say is the communication system was quite basic, but it was effective and it worked, and I can tell you that from experience playing it when it was live on the PlayStation 2, it worked very well. But enough about the ad-libs. The controls themselves are very much like classic Resident Evil tank controls, which is good, so jumping into this game from playing the other titles, you're not going to have to learn a whole new control scheme, but there are a few differences between Outbreak File 1 and File 2. So with File 1, it's very much the standard, you aim and can't move, but then on File 2, if you aim, you then can hold R2 and then you can move as well. You can't actually then aim up and down, but you can actually move and it will track the target for you as well, the nearest target. So that's a nice touch between the two games. There's also a difference with how you can use first aid sprays. So in the first game, you can't equip the first aid spray. If you need to give it to a teammate, you can pass them off the item and they can use it themselves. Or if you need to use it, you just use it as normal. But in File 2, you can actually equip the first aid spray, and you can get all your teammates to get in one corner, spray them all at once, and it heals them all to full. So that is again another nice touch which helps towards team play. So you need to heal all your team and you only have one healing item. That is literally the answer. Keeping on the subject of team play as well, so like I have said a couple of times already, this is an online game, so you get to play it with up to 3 other teammates, so you can keep yourself alive, but it is always important to keep the rest of your team alive, and there's a load of different ways you can do this. Like I said, with the first aid spray, you can do that, you can heal your whole team in one go. There is also a few things you can do, such as if one of the players is put on danger and then downed, you can physically pick them up, or if they're on danger and they're hobbling, you can go and help them, and then you can help them walk faster by essentially carrying them, which is cool, so you can get them out of harm's way quite easily. So there are just a few of the things you can do, but there's loads of other stuff. So if one of your teammates is getting grabbed, for example, by a zombie, you can tackle the zombie quick enough, they won't get bitten and they won't actually take any damage, so that is also quite handy, which happens probably about 20 times to 30 times per map when you're playing online with people. I think the point I'm trying to make is, for a game that came out in 2004 when online console gaming was in its infancy, there's a lot of little things you can do to help optimize gameplay and team play. So hats off to Capcom back then for making a game which was this innovative. Back then you just didn't have games like this, and I think personally this paved the way for a lot more online survival horror games, because there's so much you can do and so many little things that help with gameplay. But again, I digress. And we're going to move on to online now. So like I said, this was an online game on the PS2. You had to get a network adapter which went directly in the back of your PlayStation 2, so you could hardwire it with the network cable. Then you were able to jump on the servers. Unfortunately, the UK version of Outbreak File 1 was a single player game only, so I'd never got to experience the first game online until I managed to find the Observe server, which are a bunch of guys who resurrected the game. But I had loads of experience playing Outbreak Files 2 with my brother, who also had the game, and fantastic game, no problems online as well. I mean, bear in mind the internet was slow back then, so it did take a little while to load into the game, but then you were used to it. I'm just going to quickly go over the things I don't like about it. I didn't want to make a whole section about this because there isn't really too much that I dislike. One of the main things is some of the boss fights do seem a little bit pointless, and that's mainly on Outbreak File 1 rather than File 2. What I mean is, there's a couple of bosses that just seem a bit pointless, and the prime suspect on that is the boss fight in the 4th level in Outbreak File 1, which is the Hellfire scenario. Now you fight a Regis Licker, which is essentially kind of a semi-mutated Licker who's blocking your way out. Very, very easy to kill, and it has Lickers that spawn around it, but they're very easy to get away from you. You just literally have a teammate press a button with a fire alarm and they kind of scatter. You can realistically take the Regis Licker out with about 7 pot shots from Kevin's 45, so it's not really much of a challenge. And there is one more, it's the boss at the end of the below freezing point scenario. It is a cool boss, but again, really, really easy to kill. You can kill it with the train car. You have to hit it about 4 times, and then it's dead. So it is really, really pointless boss. The bosses in Outbreak File 2, however, are a little bit better. So that's mainly a gripe with the first Outbreak bosses. But realistically, that's one of the only things that I can find wrong with the game. Everything else is just fantastic. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this video up with my conclusions, and I'm gonna give it a rating out of 10. This will be the rating that I've always given it, because it hasn't changed at all since the game first came out. So my conclusions of the game are this: very innovative game for the time, very groundbreaking game at the time as well. Like I said, when console gaming online was in its infancy, this game was one of the first that did it, and did it well. Although it's a spin-off, a canon spin-off mind you, which I'll save for another video, it's probably the greatest spin-off in the Resident Evil universe. Gameplay is fantastic, the tank controls feel like classic Resident Evil tank controls, so that again is good. So like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to learn a new control system. The online team play is amazing as well. Everyone that still plays this game in the Outbreak community is a great player. You don't really have that many bad eggs there, but again, I digress. But yeah, great storyline, great gameplay, replay value is through the roof because of all the different characters, and yeah, I would recommend this game to anyone, old Resident Evil fans and new Resident Evil fans alike. I still have my original copy of the game till this day. It's one game, even though I can't really play it on the PS2 anymore, online at least, I'm still going to keep it for the nostalgia reasons. Every time I play this game, I get the same feeling of joy that I did almost 15 years ago. So that says something about this game. But let's move on to the rating. So this game I will literally give a solid 9 out of 10, and that is literally for all the reasons I said. It's not a perfect game, but it's close to it. Annoyingly as well, Capcom were developing File 3, but they cancelled it for some reason, even though this game did fairly well. So that is always going to be a pipe dream that we'll probably never see, but we can still enjoy File 1 and File 2 for what they are. But that is it guys, let me know what you think in the comments below of this retrospect. Did I miss anything you think that I should have put in the video? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're new, please subscribe, because that helps me out a lot. So this is Simmers Dim Gaming, and I'll see you on the next one.